I'd like to thank Townsburg Food and Spirit. I would also like to welcome Kurt, who's going to be our new co-admin of the Southwood chapter. Our next meeting will be at 6 at 5:30, and I'd like to welcome NullSpace, who's going to present.
You just call me Brad.
Brad. Talking programming crash course with Python. Nothing you want to know, and a lot of.
It's right there on the slide. You can read it. It's there. Like, my vision's going bad. Man's got glasses on. And he's like, yeah, wait till I do it. Yeah. So yeah, I'll repeat it. Yeah, programming crash course with Python. Yeah, emphasis on crash course. This is gonna. It's 67 slides. It's a lot of stuff, but it's not that much. Just go with it. All right. So who am I? All you jokers know who I am. So, but yeah, for those in cyberspace or people who are going to be watching this later, I'm Brad. I handle NullSpace. I'm a programmer and engineer, 20 plus years. I've really lost count. I don't remember when I started writing code and started doing this kind of stuff. So currently I'm doing like everything, just so much stuff. We're able to do a lot more scripting with Python than I ever thought I would do. So I'm doing a lot of that these days, so good thing doing a talk on that. Help run CTF 303, misec, give a little shout out to that. Show up with CTF. I'm sure there'll be some fun Python challenges there too. I co-lead the Oakland County OWASP chapter, so I guess that gives me some credence that I know what the hell I'm talking about when it comes to code and security, but I don't know, you decide. I've got a GitHub and I'm going to put a few of these samples in. Some of the stuff is just like, it's you go to any tutorial, it's gonna basically stuff you'll see, you'll know how to do it. I also hate bullet points, but this is gonna be full of it, because this is a program. So just grin and bear with it. You're going to be basically getting like a ton of programming stuff. So, its talk and its goals. Yeah, really a big part of this is just putting your head, this is going to be hard. This is climbing the north face, kind of learn how to program. I would suggest this is your only solution to try and learn, but you pick something up, anything out of this, good for you. That's the first step of the very long journey of becoming a programmer. I'm still not that great at it. I've been doing 20 years. So yeah, emphasis on crash course. I said 67 slides. We're going to go through this really fast. So programming, what is it? Yeah, here's a definition of it. You basically make the computer go burr. You make it do something you want it to do, and you just press a button and it runs. You don't have to touch that. Python, it's a language, not the snake. You don't know. This isn't like CRISPR, you're not like making a snake. So here's what, computer science stuff would say, what is Python, great. If you don't know what's making sense, don't worry. That's just a bunch of stuff that you don't need to worry about. Like there's a lot of people who write code, don't know a lot of what this language is supposed to do or how it's supposed to be put together. Is it strict typing or not strict? So whoops, who cares? First thing, and probably one of the hardest things people say, so how do I get started in this? You need to install a compiler. You actually need to get the program that can actually interpret your code and turn it into machine language and computer go burr. So how do you do that? You just go to this website, python.org, and download it, or here, and you download it, and if you know how to install something with Windows, then what am I doing? There's all this other stuff, chuckles. Linux, you should know how to just install Python. It's super simple. If you're not, just why are you here? What's up?
So how do you separate the system Python from the Python code that you actually need?
That's beyond the scope of this talk. I'm going to lean on that heavily. Yeah, if you're there, you already know what you're doing. There's Google or DuckDuckGo. There's a search engine for you, solution for you. So, right? Yeah. So open a file editor, anything. Notepad works perfectly fine. Write that in there. Save it as hello.python, and then, you know, of course you have to, as I said, you need to have Python installed. And you execute that in your favorite command line or console or terminal, and you're a programmer.
Vim or Nano?
Why was you
The magnetized needle and a very steady hand.
Why are you hurting him already?
Neither have I. I get a butterfly with flapping wings in Africa, and that causes a tornado. So yeah, cool, yeah, that's it. Talk over, we're done, you're programmers now. But yeah, let's really dig in. So variables. Variables are basically just buckets. They're just things you put other stuff in. You don't have to think what's meaning. You know, a typical thing is just, you know, if you're going to do with a number, it could be an X, or it could be a Y, or it could be, or it could be foo, it could be bar, it could be whatever it is. Just name it something meaningful of what the hell it's supposed to have. Like putting masking tape and go vomit on a bucket. Don't use it for food. So yeah, you know, we'll get a little bit into what this is, but this is basically multiple variables to be assigned all at once. That's a nice, neat thing of Python. You can do it that way. So, but yeah, like a bucket, like Bruce Lee said. You pour water into the bucket, it becomes the bucket. If you pour an integer into this variable, it becomes the integer. Think of it that way. So variable rules. There's some hard rules on this. Yeah, it can't start with must start with a letter or an underscore character. Yeah, can't start with a number. And variable names can only carry alphanumeric. So if you want to put dashes as a variable, tough shit doesn't work. So like I said, just name it something meaningful. And it's case sensitive. So age, capital A age, and all caps age, they're all three different variables. So keep that in mind. And things are going to start getting a little dicey with just a lot of shit on a slide because they're all related. So types, essentials, we got strings, we got integers, floats, booleans, lists, dictionaries, bytes, and non-type. Really important is string and integer because, you know, life is hard without like words and numbers. If you're going to write something, you need kind of the basic building blocks of language. Otherwise, no one's going to understand what the hell you're trying to do. Float, don't worry about it. It's just a really big number. Boolean, true or false. List, it's a bunch of stuff and a nice, neat. Yeah, it's a list. It's just like bullet points. Ah, shit, bullet points. Dictionary, it's a storage of key value pairs. So instead of a list with things that are, you know, lists 1, 2, 3, 4, you're putting them instead of one. You put it as a string, meaning something else. Yeah, it's may break your brain a little bit. Don't worry about it too much. But here's some very good examples. X is a string. This is a string. You can denote it's a string because it's got these quotes. You can do single quotes or double quotes. That's important. You can't put a double quote and a single quote. You've got to just stay consistent. The big thing about Python is stay consistent whatever you're doing. We'll get a little bit more into that. Some people will know what we're talking about. But yeah, something to notice about non. What is non? Non is basically void. It is nothing. It's nothing. Nothing is in here. This is not been declared. You can't use it. It's not functional. I guess you could use it, but that'd be weird. Lost my laser pointer, and we're falling behind. So yeah, these are all good examples. I'm going to burn through some of this. List is zero-based. I know everybody thinks numbers start with 1, but you know, this is zero-based. The Flameware Online don't give a shit. That's just how this works. So keep that in mind. If you have goddamn, I keep losing the laser. So circle is 0. So that's why it says it prints square. If you end up declaring, hey, I need shape 1, you're gonna get a square when you print it out. Yeah, a little bit more on print. It's a slide I must have removed, but basically print, that's actually how you list something out of the command line. It just pukes it out for you. Keep in mind you need to use the parentheses on either side of it. If you don't, you're going to get an error and it won't work. Add remove from a form list and cell type. Awesome. So yeah, we got here is just ways to add and remove things from a list. There's no, just read what's on here. It's pretty self-explanatory about adding and removing things from a list. Now we can do dictionaries. Dictionaries, like I said, key value pairs. Neat little tricks here are you can't just you can do a get. You're gonna have to declare the actual key you want. These are keys and these are values. So you can see NE, that's a key. 34 is a value. SE is a key. 45 is a value. So C is the variable we're using. Get N key is out of 0. You can also say, I want to get all the keys with the dot keys, parentheses, and it gives you all the keys from the list. And removing from it, operators. Form operations and variables. Names defined with itself. That's awesome. I love that. I love when things are defined with themselves. There's all different types of operators. We've already seen some of them adding, removing things from particular types of variables, but we're talking about actual mathematics, edits, change mutations, sorts, transpositions, insertions, casting, polymorphs, and we're not talking about questions. It's just a whole other thing we don't need to edit inside out. So just think, if you don't understand what it is, it's basically you're doing actions on stuff inside of your bucket. So are you mixing things in your bucket? Are you removing water from the bucket? Are you putting more into the bucket? Are you putting vomit in the food bucket? You shouldn't be doing that. No, don't do that. It's bad. So this is basic math. You guys should know how things are added together. These are just how it looks like in the code. Some interesting things that you may find are modulus. So you can find, basically you're dividing 10 by 3, what's the remainder? And so it's always great awesome way to find multiples of things. You want to know, hey, like every third time something happens, that's a neat way of getting that way to figure that out. Exponents and floor division, don't worry about it yet. You just worry about the basic stuff when you're dealing with numbers. Comparisons, equals, not equal, greater than, less than, also basic high school math kind of thing we're used to. So you need to make sure when you're comparing one thing to another, if it's equal, do not use just a single equal sign because it's a variable sign. Double equal, you actually, hey, am I comparing this? Are these actually equal? A lot of errors are because of that. Logical operators and or not. This might put some people who haven't kind of gone through some more programming might confuse you, but here's a good Venn diagram. This is peanut, you're making a sandwich, peanut butter and jelly. It's gonna have both of them. It could be peanut butter or jelly or both of them. It's not a peanut butter sandwich, it's not exclusively that. That's an exclusive order. So it could include, it could be someone saying it's a peanut butter sandwich, it could have jelly on it. I didn't say it doesn't have jelly. And not, it's either, it's not jelly or not peanut butter sandwich. So identity and membership operators, this is where a little bit more natural language starts to come into things, where you can say X is instead of equals. So you can say is X equal to both, but they also have to be the same object. So if you're doing any kind of funny business, it's not going to work out so well. So X and Y both has to be an integer. If you're saying X is Y, is not, that's the opposite. In is interesting. If you have a list and you're trying to say, hey, I have this list of 1 to 100. Is X inside of it? X is 5? Yes. X is 90? Yes. X is 200? No. Won't be true. And then that's the opposite of that. bitwise operators. Yeah, maybe we kind of skip this. That gets a little bit hairy, but I'm just showing you that these are possibilities of it. That's a little bit getting a little bit beyond it. And yeah, this is a lot of possibilities. Don't worry about it. You just need to worry about this. These things. Assign the value, as I was saying, assign the value to a variable. Do you want to increment or decrement, which is nice. We'll get into going through a loop. That'll be very handy. Output debugging. Yes, great. That's your debugger. Like it. Logs are beyond the scope of this talk. I know that's probably one of your questions.
No, there's no answer for classes. There's no answer for classes.
Nope. No classes. Not talking about those. Unless you want to talk about my class. Bad. So comments. Yeah, comments are just ways of like putting meaningful documentation inside of the code. No, code is not self-documenting. Don't do that. Write comments. Because I guarantee you're going to look at this tomorrow and be like, what the hell was I doing? And especially on a really fun weekend, yeah, you won't remember anything. You're like, a genius wrote this. Oh, it was me. So, yeah, single line comments, multiple line comments, basically anything out of this. It does not get interpreted. It could be anything. It could be dealt with you. Don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. So you get all that. Yeah? You all know how to operate all those things inside of it? Yeah. So don't worry about it again. But a quick note on syntax. Python is insignificant. That was mentioned inside of the earlier slide. What is Python? It is insignificant. You need to, if you're going to choose spaces or tags to indent the code to say it's part of this this conditional statement or this loop or this basically statement of some kind, stick with it. So if your entire program, you're going to do a space, double space, 3 spaces, 4 spaces, I don't care, or a tab or double tab or whatever you want, but be consistent. But use tabs because tabs are better. Conditions. So I was saying about conditional statements, we had if. Basically, if something is true, do something. If that's not, the previous thing wasn't true, we can use else if and catch another statement. And yeah, match that. Or nothing match, and we're gonna get something else. So yeah, there's a whole lot to go in there. I know it's very dry, but it's programming, guys. It sucks. This is it's gonna be rough, kind of wrap your head around it. But if you understand, if x is 5, great. Say x is 5. If x is 6, else if x is 6, then okay, print x is 6. Else, all right, I don't even know. I don't know what x is. There's indentation in text. Loops. So the first one is while loop. While, and you put a conditional statement in there of something. So in this case, we have while true. This is what we call an infinite loop. This will continue to run. This will just keep printing this loop that goes on and on. Some people start looping and not knowing what no. So there's going to be, we'll get into how you actually break out of this, but that's important. You're going to need to do some type of thing that results into a true or a false. Same thing with conditional statements. It needs to be a true or a false. It needs to be equivalent or something that we basically can result down to a binary decision. Yes, great, we're going to do whatever comes of this. No, carry on, do something else. While, here's one we have, we're iterating through things. An I for iterator, always a good thing to do. So if I is, we essentially, it's somewhere, I forgot to put that up there, but let's say we put I equals 0 here, while I is less than 10, yes, okay, it's less than 10, we're gonna do stuff in here. We're gonna do this incrementer, and it's gonna keep doing this, and it's gonna print it out 11 times. It might be one off on that, but it'd probably say do stuff 11 times. Because we're starting with 0 and we're going to 10, yes, so let's say 11 times. For loops. So some people who used to code may know the notorious for loop of for I equals 0, semicolon I less than 10, semicolon I plus plus, and then curly braces. You know C or you know any other languages. Yeah, for loop is just an iterator in Python. You don't do any, you can't do anything funny with it. You can really good to say, hey, it's for as long as 4 is x, as long as x is inside of these numbers, loop through it. So x inside of, I made a boo-boo here. It's supposed to be x, for x in numbers. Oh man, see, I wrote this all too fast. So it's gonna write, basically, it'll go through these numbers and it'll go print out, do stuff 5 times. It can also go through an entire string and iterate through the string. So it'll print out something like that on your console. It'll literally print out each letter. So that's handy. Breaks. So like I said, how do we break out of a infinite loop? You break it. So you find some kind of conditional thing where you want to get out of it and break it. And it gets you out of it. So that's handy. Continue. Skips one iteration. So if you have that one little weird edge case of something you want to do inside of this list of stuff, you can just skip that. That's not part of this. And just get out of it. So that's handy right there. Range. So instead of basically making what you've noticed an array of just a big bunch of numbers, you can say, hey, you know, I want to go and I want to do this 6 times. Except remember, it starts with a 0. So it's going to print out 0 through 5. So that's a neat little trick there. And if you want to, here's some different variations of it you can do. So you can go in increments of, so if you do between x and y, x being 0, y being 6, it's going to go in increments of 1 until you say there's an incremental, and then you can like, I want to count by 2s, I want to count by 10s, however you like. This is an interesting one. You can do an else and a for loop. So it's going to execute the very last loop of that for. And you could just say, hey, you know, in this case, hey, I added this 6 that you probably want there, and there, fix it. Nesting. So you can put loops inside of loops. You can put, I mean, you saw conditions inside of loops, so there's no stopping. You can put loops inside of loops inside of loops inside of loops, and I will teach you. Because that's a bad idea. Don't do, you know, rarely do this. This is bad programming unless it's really quick. It's really, really fast. You're doing a small amount of information in there. There's no other way to go about it. Otherwise, break your loops up. Because it starts to get messy. Check it out. Are you guys getting all this? Good. You know, you all look really long. So functions. So a function is just callable block of code. Of course, in their infinite wisdom, the person who came up with how we're going to call this function, we're going to call it def. So we're going to definition. Why don't we call it def? Yeah, programming, we call it all functions or defs. So it basically is just saying, hey, I want to sequester this code, and I want to run it anytime I call it. That's handy if you're going to have code that you're going to use over and over and over and over and over and over again. And you don't just write it once and then reuse it. It's kind of like, don't invent a hammer every time you pound a nail. That's stupid. You don't forge a hammer. Your hammer. Just make the hammer and so that's handy. So there's use functions. So funny little terminology, people will talk about parameters and arguments. They're not interchangeable, but they are kind of interchangeable. But when someone's saying, hey, parameters are the inside of, you're actually using inside of your function. The argument is what you give the function to call it. So you can feed it variables that you want to use that you've made from another function or from earlier in your code. Libraries. Don't reinvent the wheel. Don't write your own crypto. Don't write your own requests. Don't do a lot of stuff that someone did better. Save yourself time. So where do I get it? PyPy, that's a great place to look because that's basically where you're going to pull it down from. You do a pip install. You can also do, so here's a little thing if you're looking for your library name.
You're gonna go Python -n for the module pip search the library name. Don't know what library you need to go? Go to DuckDuckGo, go to Google, you're going to find probably the library. And yes, logically install library. Library usage, how do we use it? We do import at the top. I mean, you can put the import anywhere you want, but you're gonna have to call it after. So that's probably a comment on code flow. Like it goes from top to bottom. It doesn't go up to bottom. It's English, people. It goes top to bottom, left to right. So import requests, import the library, and utilize it. Know what you're actually, how you're supposed to import it, what you're supposed to do. Sometimes there's classes. I'm not talking about classes, except for this case of libraries. There are classes where you'll need to call a class and then the method inside a class. So if you have something like, let's say like pprint, which is a great way of dumping out variables. It's another debugging tool. You'll have to import pprint and then pprint.pprint, which is great. There's a method that's the same as the class. That actually executes. That's be aware of how to actually use it, read the documentation, RTFF. So here's a neat little thing. We'll go a little bit more into requests, but basically this is how you get a web page, and you can print out all HTML of a page. That's the basics. So we're going to kind of slow down a little bit, and we're going to go and probably everyone's favorite thing is regex. So you don't have to install this, but regex you import with RP for regex. And regex, don't worry about that. Because that's just going to cause a lot more problems. So like I said before, here's a neat little way of, hey, you can get web requests. Again, there's lots more to it. I'm just touching the surface of this. But something to notice is, you want to check the status code, and it should say 200. But fun fact, there's a lot of different statuses in web. So, you're not always going to get success. So let's do some fun security stuff. SegSpider. Here's a fun one. I actually wrote this and ran this today, and there's a lot of links on misec.us, over 15,000. I stopped at 15,000. There's also a neat little fun thing. There's a limit of recursion of 1,000 on Python, so 1,000 loops. That's it. We're getting an error. You can increase it. I would advise against that. So a little bit of code here hunting for checking my recursion. But if we want to go through it real quick, just some things that we notice. We got a method here. We're calling a method here. We have some variables up here that we've already instantiated. We're going to count the number of loops, keep sure we're within our recursion limit. We're going to keep track of the pages we limit. We don't want to hit the same page again and again and again, because that's dumb. And the site we want to go after. And like I said, hey, I use a method here because this is the thing I'm going to call over again. It's actually self-referencing. It can call itself again and again and again. It's neat. Saves some space and saves some setting. So, like I said, in the track, hey, did we visit this already? Otherwise, get out of this this function. It's actually how you get out of the function, or you just go to the end where it's no longer. You don't have to return anything there. So we're going to do a little web request. Stay on target. Let's stay on the site. It's not inside of the link. So the link, we get HTTPS blah blah. Usually the noise is going to be the site. So don't go to Facebook. Don't go to Twitter or X or whatever. That's a bad idea. That's out of the scope. Make sure that we're getting a status 200. Otherwise, and here's a neat little library called Beautiful Soup. It is a parser. It's an HTML parser. So you want to get all this data off of the site. How do I do that? Use Beautiful Soup and Python now instead of PHP. Use this, and this will be able to get you whatever you want. If you're trying to figure out what you actually need to get, hit F12 on your browser, and you see all this HTML. That's beyond the scope of this talk. You figure that out on your own. I'm not teaching you how to write a site. That's bad. Figure it out on your own. So, like I said, here's our array. We're gonna append onto it, keep track of where we've already been. What the hell is this? Jesus. See, I told you, you won't even, you look at it, I don't know what you're doing here. Comment your code. Oh, so we're gonna keep track kind of occasionally, we're gonna see what's going on. How many loops we've been through. And we're gonna use this beautiful soup. We're gonna look for all A tags. A tags are links. Keeping track of our loops, again, blah, blah. Interesting thing, every A record has an href. That's where you actually have your link into it. So we're gonna go ahead and try and actually get that href. Sometimes an A tag doesn't have an href. I don't, there are idiots who write this. So that's a weird thing. And so if we find more links into it, we try to get more links out of that, go to that page, and so on and so forth, deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And yeah, that's that. If you want, I can show you the result of me doing that. Ribbon, isn't it? I'm not even online. That's a problem. That's not gonna work.
It says to comment as code, doesn't comment as code.
Y'all,
There's comments in there.
It's not very fast.
Few and far between.
Yeah.
It's not that it's that hard to read.
it's a talk. The talk's commenting the code. I'm commenting on it verbally. Yeah, that'll work. That's how that works. Oh, internet, yes, these are all Wi-Fi that's around us. Oh, crap.
Yeah, that's not showing on the screen.
Oh, good, good. Which side? Okay, there we go.
Control Shift plus
Yeah, I've been doing that. So really shit.
PowerShell.
Yeah, PowerShell. I know, man. I'm a Linux guy.
Control scroll maybe. Yeah, I'm gonna change the profile.
I got a Gmail. Oh god, that sounds awful. Well, here.
No, there's no way there. I think there was a way to build
What the fuck? What does it even say? Well, whatever. It worked before.
it. Works on my machine.
Works on my machine. So, neat little trick too. You can do a little web server. This one I know this works because I don't even need the internet. But yeah, in a sense, you can just quickly. It's just a socket, just opening a socket at all level, and just here. And if someone actually accesses that socket here, just give them this. Cool. So that works. I can actually show you that one. I mean, it's not sexy or anything, but it's totally legit site. This one I don't know actually how it works.
Not when I'm aware that it's.
Yeah, totally. Shh. So I did not get it to where I can actually hand off the directory. Yeah, but it's a length. It totally is not bad. Yeah, you can run a web server off Python. That's pretty crazy. So what about confidence? If you didn't get any E's in this talk, that's great. That's fine. if you get inspiration, that's all you really need from it is, hey, this seems doable, this doesn't seem so scary. Like really the hardest part for most people, I don't know how to write code, is download the Python interpreter compiler and write some code, smash on it and see what works. So programming is hard, guys. I mean, as you just saw me crash and burn. Like, I tested this earlier, this was working perfectly fine. Why is this code not working? I don't know. I can probably fix on it later. But we all started some level suck. And expect your code to not work when you run it, even if you tested it. If it does work, don't trust it. You gotta figure out why that actually works. It shouldn't work the first time you actually try running it. Failure isn't fatal. Like, you're gonna be bad at it, and especially if you've done it lots and lots, you're gonna be overestimating your ability to do something, and you'll have some stupid error that'll basically eat your week, and you go, oh my god, I forgot this thing's not properly indented. I was using spaces in this like an idiot. Didn't use tabs. I can't tell you how many times I've seen that where it's like, why is this working? Why isn't this working? Why? I don't understand. Usually they'll tell you like you're not using the right indentation, though sometimes if you're doing some containers, you don't always get that response. It just blows up, not back into your toast. That's not working. So it's okay. It's okay if things don't. What now? Well, what are you doing? I would say type into a search engine and how am I supposed to do this thing? But there's GPT for that. And now a lot of people can start and really not even know what the hell it does, which is really scary idea. If you really don't know what you're doing, maybe you shouldn't install Python. That sounds like that is a vulnerability. That's a concern. Yeah, so don't put this on your work laptop because unless you're a developer, and if you're a developer, you should know this one. If you want some inspiration, look around different packages of Python and figure out, hey, how do I do this thing? How do I connect to ADFS? Or how do I do SAML authentication to this thing? And so I can do web requests because this API sucks. I'm just going to pull it off the actual interface that I see. Yeah, you can do that. There is a library for SAML authentication or authenticating against NPL version 2. If you don't know what those are, don't worry about it. Dig around in GitHub repos. Those things are great. You get to see a bunch of code. It may not actually work at all either. So those are great places to find it. Yeah. I mean, there is an idea where you can actually write some Python to go looking around on GitHub pages and find some interesting things there. Do a little regex and find anything that mentions
API keys?
or password or usernames or license keys. Ooh, those are fun.
That's for real estate.
Yeah. So, like I showed you with that web request, I'm not going to show you how to actually pull stuff out of GitHub dirt, but there is someone did make some code that's on GitHub. I'll show you what that is. But yeah, you can do all kinds of fun stuff now. So that's it. We just kind of ran through everything. It's all very surface level. If you want to go back on slides, wow, 40 minutes. That's pretty good.
That was a good talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to go back, I can actually start talking about any of the little bits and pieces of code I've got up there. Like someone not get what the hello for loop is, or someone not get what a condition is.
Just a random question, like on your day-to-day work, how often are you utilizing Python to build tools or specific queries for data sets that you're working with in the security world?
More than a little, less than a lot.
So it's every other day, every week, you know, you got a problem.
So sometimes there's weird shit where I have to try and debug. It's really weird, and I'm trying to compare, is this the proper certification? And it'd be great if it was just doing it on one machine, but if you have to do it against a ton of them, or a bunch of cluster of nodes, it's kind of ugly. So OpenSSL is, you can do OS calls, system calls, I would use OpenSSL if you're gonna try to debug TLS. Don't write your own.
That's always what I've used.
Yeah, there's also a library for OpenSSL instead of Python. So if you want to do that, you can do it that way. That would be system calls. It's basically the same thing. You're basically talking the same code on the back end of it. And yeah, you can use your SAML authentication. There's a very interesting case where in work where we got ADFS and we have a SAML authentication. I guess we're gonna get rid of ADFS. But the way we're actually like getting to our log correlation tool, which is interesting, you would think, oh, that should have an API key and I should just be able to talk directly to this API interface that should be RESTful and just make queries. It's all web-based. It's all through the same goddamn port you're actually accessing yourself. So you have, if you do SAML authentication, local authentication is broken now. It does not work. So you have to basically do SAML on it. So I'm like hopping, skipping, and jumping and trying to get, did I get the SAML request? Okay, no, stop. Try again, maybe there's latency. Try again. Basically jumping back and forth doing this authentication. And so I can actually do automated queries to our log correlation. So that's fun. Yeah, like I said, sometimes some APIs suck, or they don't exist, or they're not really an API, but they call it that.
I know, I work with Broadcom products.
Yeah. So that's there's all kinds of nifty little things I've had to do, or like vulnerability management. You can talk to Ollie. A lot of this vulnerability management code is all written in Python. It's all about, I'm going to talk Tenable, and I'm talking to Sysdig, and I'm talking to Burp, and I'm talking to something else, and I'm going to get all this collected in a one neat report. Use pandas. That's great. That's another library to check out. Basically it allows you to make Excel files or CSVs and basically throw it all together. So long answer to a short question. But yeah, more often than I thought I would. Yeah, it's strange in DevOps. You do a lot of kind of scripting of stuff. You get a little bit of a little bit of stuff.
Process automation.
Yeah, especially if you do like stuff with security tooling, because some of that stuff's not mature. It's really good at what it does. It's really bad at giving you reports. Any questions? Anyone want to go through any of these other slides? No? Anybody? All right, cool. Hope you guys learned something.
Absolutely.
Man, you learned you know nothing. All right, cool.
All right. Thank you for your presentation.